don't even know who sent this to me.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, he's not bringing them in.
I don't bring them in. Unless it's fucking delicious, then obviously I have to call him.
Perfect. Okay, I'm good with that. Have you been recording? Maybe we should just go with it like that. What's going on, guys? It is time for another episode of the Whiskey Patriots. You caught a little bit of we'll just run with it. A little behind the scenes here. Some very real, what camera should I be looking at anyway today? Can we do all this stuff in like black and white, like the outtakes, and then perfect. So just keep it all out. Let's keep going. Hey, tell them who you are.
Brandon Smithley, visiting from St. Louis.
What brought you up from St. Louis?
You did.
Whiskey,
freedom, and America.
Excellent. You do realize that we're actually in sort of like a communist state over here, though.
I know. It was I was saddened by that last night when I couldn't get whiskey after 9 o'clock.
I should have warned him about that.
About the liquor store? Yeah.
Did they actually tax you when you landed in Connecticut?
They wanted to. I saw the state troopers coming. They were like, out of towner, come here.
So I'm super excited to have you on. He flew up. We're going to be doing an episode of Behind the Uniforms with him. JR, where have you been, by the way?
Yeah, well, I've been busy, doing the whole Republican stuff. I was actually down in Nashville for a Republican National Committee meeting.
Gotcha.
Saw our buddy Saul, who was on the show.
Yeah, Saul.
So, yeah, it was a good trip, and now I'm back.
Awesome. So you may notice that somebody is missing. Let's take a moment of silence for our dear friend Carl. Carl, we raise our glasses to you. So Carl made a partial fake announcement on here teasing everyone to go over to Fox News to see him make the announcement that he received a presidential appointment from President Trump. And so he is out doing disaster recovery. And is this bad?
It's okay.
Tell him what this is.
It tastes a little like gasoline.
Oh, that's... What is this? Where'd this come from? It was his job to bring whiskey. He's supposed to bring whiskey for Behind the Uniforms, but I was like, don't worry about it. You're flying in from, 10,000 miles away. I don't know geography at all, obviously.
So close.
So he brought whiskey for him, but it sounds like you didn't bring good whiskey for him.
Well, I mean, it was a sample that was sent to us from Red Saw, American-made bourbon whiskey.
That face.
Sorry, guys.
Allie, can I get a fresh glass? Continue. Where were we? All right, so Carl's not here. He is. Can you give them your background while I open up some bourbon that doesn't suck? We're going to single malt scotch. But now you have to drink. You have to drink all of it. You brought.
Is that the new rule? If you bring shitty whiskey, then you have to drink everybody's whiskey.
Have fun with that. I'm going Dalmore. Okay, so
my
sorry.
background. Was a police officer for just about 13 years in the St. Louis area. Got burned out on it essentially just after being in the riots in Ferguson. Getting stuck there for 4 months.
Oh wow! Tell us about that. Tell us about the Ferguson Riots.
Ferguson was madness. It was okay until our hands were tied. The governor at the time, Jay Nixon, really tied law enforcement's hands and said basically, just go ahead and stand there. Let them do their thing. Let them get it out of their system, but stand there. We don't care that you're being shot at. We don't care that they're throwing bottles of piss at you and rocks and everything. Just stand there. You'll be okay.
I just saw the look on JR's face because JR knows where I'm going with this. I'm going to Charleston with this because this is what we just saw there. This is what we just saw in Boston. In Boston, the freaking mayor of Boston said that these guys couldn't wear helmets or have any riot gear because it was too scary and it was going... Too scary? Are you kidding me? They're having rocks and bottles of human excrement thrown at them. And
how would you feel to go to a front line like that and say you can't protect yourself?
Here's what we need to do. Take the masks off of these jackasses, rip them off, plaster their faces on national TV, send out a list to every freaking business owner in America and let them know who these people are. Oh, and throw them in jail for 10 years and hit them with every single law, every violation that we could come up with. I
agree with you on some point like that, but then also look at the other side. When they were unmasking people in Charleston, right? And they got people wrong on the liberal side, right? Weren't they putting names up and and then people's lives were destroyed because wrong people.
But here's the thing that I think we need to address in general is, and I've said this before. I was on Fox 61 local affiliate talking about this. Is we as a society need to address this violent counterculture on all fronts that is spilling out into our streets. Causing destruction of property, causing harm in life, and what's happened is that the media is still continuing to pit right versus left in regards to these, and let's call it what it is. And all of these people are complete. They are not patriots.
Agreed.
They are people who are supporting an agenda that is destruction, that is violence, that is hate on both sides. And we as adults need to come together and understand that we need to address a counterculture that has become violent and anti-American. I have no problem. You want to protest and talk to your government and send a petition in regards to taking down the monument? Fine. That's the process, right? There's a proper protocol. But what's happening is they're creating this controversy so that there's drama, so that there's fear, so that there's all this anxiety, and they're creating victims. If a police officer harms someone at a protest, and you see the videos of these protesters screaming at cops, calling them names, and these cops stand there. They're human beings.
Right.
You know, everyone forgets that an officer at the end of the day wants to go home to his kids. And you have a family, correct? I mean, that's what drives you. There's a patriotism in serving their nation, their community, but they have a family, like anybody else. And I think that often it's getting forgot that the quality of human beings is just being lost, and we have to address this.
Well, I want to bring it up for a second. Kyle, I'd like you to edit in that scene of the protester getting shot in the groin, but edit in the clip where it's being played to Celine Dion music. Go. Okay, I mean, if that's not the most amazing clip ever, but like, I don't feel bad for that guy. I don't feel bad when you get shot in the groin with a rubber bullet because you're a jackass. And you know, I look at, so down in Texas right now, Carl over on the ground dealing with this whole, I mean, it's a terrible situation out there. But now we see looters taking advantage of this situation. What I love about Texas, like Texas is freaking America.
And the gun laws are very different. I mean, they don't.
Very different.
Well, not only that, but if you loot or burglarize in a time of crisis, but you also face much stiffer penalties. You could face life in prison.
Excellent.
I love it.
I love that.
America.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Like,
right?
You're not seeing this in the mainstream media, but people who try to break into homes and burglarize them, who, like, that's what here, forget it. You would go to prison for life if someone broke into your home here in Connecticut and you were trying to defend your castle.
Well, there's actually a couple years ago there was a clip of a guy who called 911 because someone was robbing his neighbor's house, and you can on the phone with the 911 responder, they're like, all right, we're sending cops, and he's like, well, they're trying to get out now, they have stuff and they're trying to leave the window. He's like, hold on, I'm gonna get my gun, and the 911 operator's like, don't do that, sir, and then you just hear 2 shots, and he's like, and he gets back on the phone and he goes, send an ambulance, we don't need the police. and that's what happened. There was some protest in that neighborhood at that guy. And essentially, the Texas law is on his side, and the neighbors came around when these protesters showed up, and it was not violent, but at the end of the day, it's just Texas is different.
Right.
Yeah, I saw a similar story, and I think it was Texas, but I'm not 100% sure. It was an Army sniper who'd been back from deployment, whatever, and he had built basically a copy of his sniper rifle that he had when he was deployed or whatever, and he's like sitting there cleaning it, and he looks across the street and sees through the window someone being held at gunpoint in his neighbor's house, and so he drops down the scope, and these burglars are holding this family hostage, and so he calls 911 and is talking to them, and then the guys one of the robbers is like hitting the family, pistol whipping him basically, and he's like, no. So he just drops both of them.
That's great.
From across the road.
That's amazing.
Whoa.
Well, I mean, like
that's crazy.
That reminds me of...
I want to be that guy's neighbor.
Right? Seriously.
Well, I don't know if you guys have read Carl's books yet or not, but in the second book, Enemies, Foreign and Domestic, A Seal's Story, shameless plug for Carl, you're welcome. I expect a percentage of any sales that come from this, Carl. But he talks about how he was home, his family was in bed, everybody was asleep, neighbors were drunk, had a big party, and he was watching as they were trying to break into his house. Breaking into a Navy SEAL's house is not a good idea. So he went downstairs, he hid in the dark, He waited until they got in. He saw them walk over to his wife's purse was sitting on the counter. He let guy 1 walk in, let guy 2 walk in, let guy 3 walk in. As soon as guy 4 walked in, he dropped guy 4. He took out 1, 2, and 3. He dragged them all onto the lawn, waited for police to come, held him at gunpoint. Police got there. They're like, put down the gun! He's like, this is my house. I'm the good guy. And, you know, I mean, that, like, those stories just, I know this isn't politically correct, but they give me a little freedom, you know, excitement. So,
well, I want to get back to, you know, and I think there's the idea that officers are human beings like that at the end of the day they want to go home to their family. I mean, what was the hardest part for you to deal with, and was it to stand there? Was it to see the communities being destroyed? Was it the verbal abuse?
You know, the verbal abuse wasn't really the biggest thing. I mean, there were 4 words that got me through every shift, and that's garbage in, garbage out. You know, just, it's all going to come at you. Just flush it out on the way home. Don't take that shit with you. The hardest thing was just standing there, being helpless. Not that we were helpless on our own. It was just, we were forced to be helpless.
talk to us about your shirt, too, by the way. Not to interrupt you, but I notice it's in honor of a fallen officer.
This is for Officer Blake Snyder, the St. Louis County police officer that was murdered in the line of duty October 6th, 2016. He was responding to a call for burglary. It was like a burglary / domestic situation, and he was shot before he could even get out of the car.
Oof, wow.
So let me ask you this. We saw the sergeant who was killed down in Texas trying to save lives just a couple of days ago. His wife said, please don't go. His father-in-law said, please don't go. He said, this is my job. This is what I do. How does it feel to see that on one side, to see men and women being killed in the line of duty or shot and severely wounded, and then on the other side, seeing protests about how all police are evil? Now that you're out, I mean, how do you process this?
The same way I processed it when I was in the job. But you know what the truth is. You know what it really is, that police officers are all human beings, and I'd like to believe that 99.9% of them are out there to do the right thing. And it's just like anything else. You're going to have bad people in any group, and you can't avoid it 100%. And it's, I don't know, man. It just sucks. You see these people that are there just genuinely trying to help people, and would do it for free if they could, most of them, and being vilified for it by people who have no real concept of what that job entails.
Or how hard it is.
Right.
You know, I really agree. I believe that 99.9% of all cops are good and are there to do the right thing. You know, JR works on the opposite side. JR works with politicians, where I think 99.999% of them suck. I know you probably can't go on the record and say this, but just not.
Wrong nod.
No, it's the same adage. In any population, you have bad doctors, you have bad nurses, you have bad teachers, there's
Bad
going
marketing
to be people,
agencies,
right?
Real bad whiskey.
Right. But I think the only other important thing that why you get into a job like being a police officer, there has to be some moment when you were on the job that made you feel proud. I'm just curious, because as this episode goes on, I'd like to end on that moment that made you so proud to be an officer, whether it was saving someone,
There's a few times that it was just really good to be there, and I'm probably gonna have to come up with another story for the next.
Did you just
segment.
pull from the behind the uniform segment?
Yeah.
Like we have 2 separate shows. Why are you intermingling?
I didn't know. I asked that question.
JR. We're gonna have to space out this episode by like 3 weeks now.
Use a different story.
Go ahead. No, it's okay. Fine. You're
So
blows off the last episode.
Really, one of the coolest things that happened to me is I was in a municipality in North St. Louis County, just bad area all around. It had just come off a really bad call, and because there's really nothing else to eat around there, I went to Popeyes.
Which is delicious.
It is delicious.
Absolutely delicious.
It's even more delicious when they give it to you for free in uniform. I mean, just gonna say that.
Do they really? Is that a policy of theirs?
At that location it was.
Wow, I might eat more Popeyes.
So
He neglected to tell you the manager was quitting that day and was giving out food to everyone.
you know, it doesn't matter. It was free to me. So I stand there, I order, and there's a couple with a little girl behind me. I get my food, I go sit down. They order their food. They sit down to my right, and I'm sitting there eating, and I can hear this mother telling her daughter, you know, come on, you gotta eat, and the daughter keeps doing this, you know, looking over at the police officer sitting there eating, and she's like, why aren't you eating your food? The daughter says, well, I want to eat with him. And the mom turns around and looks, and she said, oh, honey, you can't go eat with him, he's working. And I just looked at her, I said, you know, ma'am, I said, if it's okay with you, it really doesn't bother me at all. I'm fine with that.
That's awesome.
So this little girl brings her stuff over and sits down, and she's just chatting away, wanting to know, pointing at everything on my uniform, wanting to know everything, what everything does, and asking a million questions. So I made a little deal with her. I was like, you got to take 2 bites of food, and then you can ask a question.
That's awesome.
And so got her to eat her food, and it was just cool to have that break mentally from.
That's amazing.
That's great, man. That
Just
makes
a
it all.
reset.
It's a pleasant change to hear a story like that over some of the stories that I hear out here, where cops are walking down the street and parents are saying that's a bad guy. Don't talk to them. So it's nice to hear these positive stories. Well, I think we'll end it on a high.
Sounds good.
To you, fellow whiskey patriot, we salute you. To all those of you patriotic Americans, we salute you as well. Thanks for watching. Share this video because it's the American thing to do, and God bless America.